G'day everybody, Clinton here from TradiePad, and I have a very special guest with me today, all the way from New Zealand, Darren Wallbank from Builda Price. Hello Darren.
Hi, Clinton. Good to be here.
Very exciting today. We're going to have a bit of a talk about a bunch of stuff, about some really cool software, which is my favourite part, but also have a bit of a talk about something that's been a real hot topic for us for quite a long time, and it's about the current situation in the construction industry for builders and the challenges that they face and how technology can help with that. So, Darren, let's start with having a bit of a talk about the current situation or the current state of play for builders, because there's a lot of challenges that they face at the moment, and we're seeing a lot of stuff in the press about builders having a really tough time with managing their projects, and unfortunately we're seeing a lot of builders unfortunately going under due to a lot of these pressures. What are you seeing in New Zealand?
Yeah, we are seeing a bit similar. There's articles literally every day in the paper now just highlighting another company that's fallen over, and they're not for small numbers either, so it is quite topical. And there's lots of reasons coming through, but we're seeing, I think, a bit of the flow-on effect from post-COVID, fixed-price contracts, people being caught out, and suddenly there's a little bit of a slowdown, and the real impact of cash flow or unprofitable jobs is coming through to them, and it's just all catching up.
Yeah, it's like a perfect storm, and storms as well. There's a lot of extreme weather events going on. You've had it in New Zealand, we've had it over here. There's impacts on supply chains, so material shortages and cost of material, and it's just like all these pressures, all these things going on. It's it's a real challenge.
So there is some upside from that in the sense of there is workloads coming from some of the regions because of those storms, and we'll see a positive workflow impact from that. A lot of insurance work, a lot of remedial work having to be done. I was talking to a builder yesterday who has just picked up like a $50 million contract for the Hawke's Bay to build remedial houses. So there is that sort of work coming through, which is a plus.
Little bit of a silver lining.
Yeah,
but
in a bad situation.
Yeah, absolutely. But overall, I think it's about how can people change things within their business to help combat these challenges that they're facing. And I'm a firm believer of technology being a really good tool to use within business to help with some of this stuff, because I think a lot of the building collapses that we're seeing are through the things that we've mentioned, but also not having the right tools within the business to be able to keep an eye on financials and keep an eye on the projects and run profitably and run efficiently. So it's a big subject we'll talk about today. But
yeah, I think part of that too is the whole change in the banking situation at the moment, where the banks are a lot tighter on their lending, therefore requiring a lot more financial reporting and positions. So that pressure is definitely there for builders at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that in Queensland. The Queensland Building and Construction Commission now has that mandatory financial reporting that needs to be in place to allow them to keep an eye on the businesses that are at risk, and intervene when necessary. So I think that's a great thing that they've done there, just to help monitor those businesses that are at risk of insolvency and raise the flag before it's too late. So one big pain point that we're seeing is cost blowouts on projects, and cost blowouts are sometimes through things that are a bit unforeseeable, but a lot of time it's just a lack of having the data. It's a lack of having that information available. We mentioned cost of materials, rising cost of materials, and the logistics, and all the labour costs. But how can Builder Price help with that, Darren?
Yeah, I think cost blowouts are a really sensitive area because it causes pain for the builder, but also it causes pain for the end customer if they suddenly find they've got a surprise with variations and where that, or change orders, and where that final price is ending up. So one of the things we've recently introduced through our software to help in that pain point particularly is giving a forecast position of the end job. So and making that transparent along the way, so that would take the surprise out for all parties. And what we're also seeing, we see a lot in New Zealand, but we're seeing a real growth in Australia, is cost plus and charge up work being used to overcome this fast moving materials component, or even what we'd call mixed price contracts. So there'll be parts of the contract that can be fixed, like labour, but the materials become a cost plus. So you need good facilities to be able to handle that, because there's an art form to that. But in terms of cost blowouts and understanding that, it's really about having transparent, real-time, cloud-based information available from within the software that you're using, and to make sure that that's easy to use, it integrates well with your accounting package, and it's intuitive for a builder to use. So for Builda Price, that's where we focus on. One of the things we're really passionate about is saying, actually, you might have priced the job, you won the job, you've spent a bit of time in getting that art right and getting the price right, but now let's make sure, how are we tracking against that, where are we going, what's not going well, what's not going right. And even if you can't fix it on this job, let's make sure we really understand it so that you can fix it on the next job and you're not making that same mistake again and again. So it's about having some really smart reporting there and having it in real time. You know, I can remember a great case study with a guy, a builder here in New Zealand, that put our software in. He was partway through a job, so he back costed the job part he'd done, and then he worked out that he'd actually was blowing a key part of the job. And he actually said, well, I can't live with that, because by the end of the job I'll have a major problem. So he actually went to his team, and this was in the labour area. He showed them the numbers and said, look, I'll pay you a bonus if you can get this thing back on track somehow. And because he knew he'd measured that number, he actually got it right back on track. And he managed to recover what was going to be a really bad situation. But that was because he had his finger on the numbers. He could see where his labour was, he could see where his materials were versus how he'd priced that job. So Builda Price is about giving that positioning in a real-time situation for a builder.
That what you mentioned earlier about cost plus work is something that we're hearing a lot about with customers that are coming to us, and we hear a lot of people saying, I've traditionally done fixed price work, but I'm interested in doing cost plus, but they don't really know what's involved in it, and they don't understand how to manage it properly. So that's a real key component at the moment that, again, Builda Price does an exceptional job of managing.
Yeah, that really comes down to an art form to ensure that in a cost plus contract, where your risk is if you forget to charge something on with the margin that you're expecting to make on it. So if you forget to charge on 2 hours of labour, or you forget to charge on a couple of supplier invoices, that takes a lot of extra margin work to get that back, that recovery. So you've got to have a control system around that ensures you get all your time and get all your supplier invoices and subcontractor invoices in against the job and charge them on. Now, traditionally, we've seen 1,000 spreadsheets that builders would use to try and track that stuff. We actually track that very quickly in our system. So we're tracking what, and with cost plus, part of that whole scenario too is about giving the customer a picture. So even in a cost plus contract, you've got to give them an estimate up front that you can then run a budget against to show the customer how they're going versus that. And so we do that. We put the budget into our system. We then start bringing in the timesheets, integrated timesheets into us and Xero, bringing in the supplier invoices integrated into Builda Price and into Xero. So there's no double handling of any of that paperwork or timesheets. And then we show actually how are you going versus the estimate you gave the client. And then you can actually accumulate that information really quickly in our reporting system to do a charge out to a customer. And probably the cream on the end is when you go to close a job, if you haven't reported a timesheet or a cost or an invoice, it's going to say, actually, you've got unreported items. Do you really want to close this job? Because here's some stuff that you haven't reported and charged on. And that can make a real difference. So our system is really good at one, making that efficiency there, but making sure you capture everything, which is critical to cost plus.
Yeah, that's gold. And that's one of the real differentiators between Builder Price and other tools that are in the market is that management of the cost plus, but also that depth of integration into Xero for both timesheets and payroll and the supplier invoices. And that's one of the real gaps that we see in other products. And your supplier invoice automation is something that plugs a real gap that's out there. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we can. So what we do there is we're using some AI technology in that process where we will give a unique email address to the builder, and the builder can send in, you can give that to his suppliers and have his suppliers send in their invoices by PDF to that email, and our system will read those electronically. We'll also read a JPEG, so he might pop into Bunnings, pay cash for something, photograph that receipt, and we can see the receipt on his hairy leg sometimes when it's been sent in. But the system will actually read that receipt, process it into our system, and we can then allocate it to the job and then send it straight on to Xero, so there's no double handling. So I was just looking yesterday, one of our larger customers this month's already put 450 invoices this month through that way. So what that means is those 450 invoices have come into Builda Price electronically, no manual processing. They've been set to the right categories. Then it's been sent on to Xero to process. So in effect, they've had to handle no paperwork, and they've always, in that case, always also got the original invoice attached to that invoice coming in, so they can see a PDF of that. I remember a classic story on a Saturday morning. It was about 6 months ago. I got rung by a builder, and he'd just spent 3 hours inputting all his supplier invoices into the system. And he said, "Oh, what was that system you got? Because I never want to do that again on a Saturday morning." So it was like we switched it on for him, and it's a game changer because it's about one, getting good reporting, but making sure builders aren't spending night times and weekends on stuff like this.
Yeah, it really is a game changer, like you said. And the other piece that I love is your mobile app, the Builder Price app that the workers in the field are able to use for the time recording. It's super simple, and that's critical these days. We don't want to put too much complexity in. You see lots of systems that have got bells and whistles and all sorts of fancy stuff, but 9 times out of 10, it doesn't get used. So just keep it simple and let the guys log their time.
Yeah, and that was a learning for us because the original version was complex, and we got so many complaints that we actually ended up dumping that version and going to a real plain version after we'd talked to guys on site. So we got thousands of users on site using that now, and it is a really simple app. But the beauty of it is it captures what's needed for back costing, for pulling together a cost plus report, and then it feeds into Xero payroll. So there's just no double handling, but we're capturing all the information we need. So.
Yeah, very good. And we touched on it earlier, but you mentioned the budget, having the budget against the project, because having that visibility of the financial position is really critical. So getting that budget into the system, there's lots of different methods of estimating, lots of different estimating tools that are out there. And so how is Builder Price handling that whole creation of the initial budget?
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's several ways that's done, but and between New Zealand and Australia, one of the things as we're growing in Australia, we learned very quickly is Australian builders aren't spoilt like builders in New Zealand. They don't get the merchants or the Bunnings or the Hudsons, or they don't do the takeoff. Whereas in New Zealand, that's done for them, and we can read that takeoff straight into our software. But in Australia, what we're finding is that guys might have spent time investing in their own takeoff solution, so that, or they've used another takeoff solution. They've got trained people in it. So what we put in place is what we call our importer program. We can take a CSV file from any source and now map that through into our system to bring in create the original project budget and project format to run and report on. We can also use our own pricing software if someone wants to build a price up in there and use that for quote purposes. Or in a cost plus situation, we can start a project from scratch and manually load in an estimate, or start without even an estimate, because you've been given a smaller job to do, and you give them a quick number, but they just want to get it done. So in that case, you just open the project up and start getting time and materials against it. So we've got 2 or 3 ways of actually capturing that information.
Nice. And if I've put a lot of effort into building out an Excel spreadsheet that I use for my estimating, what can I do with that?
Yeah, I had that absolutely happen with a case yesterday with Builda that's been on the software, and they've spent several years building the most sophisticated Excel spreadsheet, and it does a great job. So we grabbed the CSV format out of that, and we just mapped that in through our importer tool. So, and he was really relieved about that because he didn't want to put that change on top of what he already had coming in with our systems. He wanted to get that part of this, the back costing part and the integration Xero all working well, then relook at pricing after that. So we could absolutely cater for that situation.
Awesome. Yeah, nice. So what does the future hold for Builda Price, Darren? What have you got coming?
I've got a fair lot coming. So at the moment we've finished out our health and safety package. It's sitting on our development server, and the aim is to release that in the next 4 to 8 weeks. So that will be fully integrated with the software. So idea being that because you're creating the project in Builda Price, you're assigning tasks, that will flow through to the same logic in health and safety. So, and that will be a compliant package where you can run your toolbox tools against the project, record any hazards, photographs, hazards, incidents against the project in Builda Price. So you're putting all the information into one place. And part of that is the ability to scan code coming onto site so that the tasks have been allocated to that builder through Builda Price or through to a subby or a worker. They will become available through that scan code on site. So really start to see a single solution in that area coming through. So that part's coming through. We've also just released out quite an extensive package in terms of our usability, because we're finding we've got smaller customers but some larger customers. So the ability to really granular allocate tasks down to builders. The other tool that's we're working on now is just a fixed price management tool to handle WIP percentages and fixed price contracts in addition to cost plus. So, and having that integrate back to Xero so we can reconcile that. And probably one of the other exciting ones which we've built, again we're just working through the integration, is our financial portal. So that's the ability to actually, with the permission of the builder, we can pull your data back from Xero, your financial data, map it to a standard structure for a builder, and then start to show you your numbers versus other builders without giving away any names, but actually start to show you what the average is for a builder in certain KPIs in certain areas, and also be able to rank you how you sit versus, say, builders in your area, if you're in Melbourne or Sydney, or versus builders that do renovations up to this price level. So we have all that built, and that'll be one of the exciting things we bring out. Every builder I've showed that to just loves that idea of being able to see how he compares to other builders. So that's part of our strength. We talked about other packages. Where we are really coming through strong is all our financial reporting, our ability to show a builder and where he's making money, where he's losing money, where he has to fix things, and give him great financial information. And I feel that's going to be so important for insurance companies, insurance purposes, for banks in the future. So that's really a strength area we're focusing on.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's certainly a gap in other products, that's for sure. Yeah, awesome. And I guess it's really important to note as well that all of this amazing functionality that you have, this is where TradiePad comes in to the mix with Builda Price. So we're working really closely with you and the team as your training specialist for businesses that are looking for some guidance and some assistance with getting Builda Price up and running and using it to its potential, because there's a lot of stuff there that you're talking about. And for a lot of businesses, it's a whole new world and things that they haven't necessarily done before. And so it's important to note that we are here to assist with that and provide guidance and training. We have a package that we've launched with you guys called a Builda Price Kickstarter, which is the perfect starting point to just getting Builda Price, getting the foundations in place, getting the basic knowledge in place of how it all works, and giving you the perfect building block to then start to use more and more and more of Builda Price. So it's a really good, low cost, simple starting point.
Yeah, it's really important. What we found is that when we initially grew the product, we didn't have compulsory training with the sign up, and so you could bring 30 builders on, but you could have 10 of them drop off because they weren't trained. So we really focus, and that's what we like about TradiePad, is that it's compulsory for every builder to pay a Kickstarter fee to get that base training going, and then do more extended training if they need to. So it's important for us to have partners like TradiePad that are specialists in that area, because we've recognised we get a lot better take-up of the software and use of it. There's no point just paying a monthly sub for software if you're not trained or you're not used or you can't get good help desk support. It's just not good for a builder.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, one of the gaps that we've seen in other products is they just don't have that level of training, that level of implementation and service that's available. So it's a good team, because we don't want to develop software. It's not our specialization, and vice versa. Training's not your specialization. So yeah, why not work together on it? All right, well, thank you, Darren. That's been fantastic. Lots of amazing things there. Hopefully we've got the message across that, yes, it's a bit of a tough situation out there. There are a lot of challenges, but technology is your friend, and there's a lot of really good tools that are out there that you can utilize in your business to help make running the business more effective, more profitable, more efficient, and more enjoyable. That's a key driver for us, is to help make the business more enjoyable to run. And the reason why you got into business was to, I guess, have a bit of control and have a bit of lifestyle. So can't wait to see people starting to use Builda Price and start changing those lives.
Yeah, that's fundamental to us. And to me, having looked after builders as an accountant for them in the past, one is they don't make the return they should make for the risk and the time, and they carry all the pressure on a project. So this is about making sure they do get that and get that lifestyle right, but make a good return along the way. So absolutely, that's key.
And maybe have a little bit of time to go out and do a bit of fishing, maybe, Darren.
Yeah, that's important.
It's very important. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Darren. Thanks for your time. And look forward to seeing all the cool stuff that you got coming out soon.
Great. Thanks for your time, Clinton.